Good afternoon. Thank you all for attending this third annual U of M-Flint DEI Summit, which is happening virtually, no longer due to pandemic-imposed restrictions, but an effort to be inclusive to our remote workers and learners. My name is David Luke. My pronouns are he and him, and I serve as the Chief Diversity Officer here. I'm a cisgender multiracial man with short hair and a mostly dark brown beard. I'm wearing a long sleeve light brown shirt, and my virtual background is blue with UM-Flint Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the upper left corner of the screen. The idea for this DEI Summit is inspired in part by our colleagues in U of M Ann Arbor who held their summit this morning. Hopefully some of you were able to view it, and if not, it is on YouTube. The DEI Summit is an opportunity to learn more about some of the activities going on at the University of Michigan-Flint. The basic outline for this session is shown on the screen. We'll begin with this welcome and land acknowledgement, followed by brief remarks from our interim chancellor and a reminder of the 8 broad goals outlined in our DEI strategic action plan. As we've done in the past, we'll invite key university personnel involved in initiatives to talk about the work they're doing as we collectively celebrate the good work we're doing and maintain a focus on the work that we still have to do. I believe this is crucial. I often think about how the massive scope of DEI work can be paralyzing when we look at how much we've yet to accomplish. But seeing what we've been able to do along the way and the various things that have improved can be motivating. We shouldn't get complacent, but we should celebrate wins along the way and recognize some of the progress being made due to the efforts of so many people at U of M-Flint. So first, let's begin with a land acknowledgement. We'd like to acknowledge that the land the University of Michigan-Flint occupies is the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary homeland of many indigenous nations. Most recently, the Anishinaabe, including Potawatomi, Chippewa, Ojibwe, and Ottawa tribal nations. We acknowledge the painful history of genocide, forced relocation, and removal of many from this territory, and we honor and respect the many indigenous people, including those of the Three Fires Alliance, who are still connected to this land. So I wanted to add this slide. Many of you might recognize this. This is an image of the land acknowledgement that we just read. It's displayed prominently in the University Center outside of our kiva. This land acknowledgement was developed in conversation with members of our Indigenous community. There's a lot of discussion around land acknowledgements, and there are certainly valid critiques. Acknowledgement alone is not sufficient, but I believe acknowledgement is a step. It's said that actions speak louder than words, but words also speak, so I believe both are important. Our work toward addressing some of the consequences of this painful history we highlight in the acknowledgement continues. I want to thank the staff who thought to display this prominently in our campus and note that this was not my idea, but an idea I very much supported. I'm encouraged to see ideas like this bubbling up throughout the institution as an indicator of our growing commitment to DEI institution-wide. So while DEI has become more controversial and the focus of political contention, it remains an institutional priority for the University of Michigan in general and for the University of Michigan-Flint specifically. We know from research that the success of a DEI initiative can be influenced by its infusion in broader campus strategy. Thus, as we enter a new phase of strategic transformation Fry style, I want to welcome our interim chancellor, Dr. Donna Fry, to provide some remarks about the importance of DEI.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. It's my honor to be with you today and to join in the discussion on this crucial topic. We can all agree that diversity, equity, and inclusion are intrinsically linked with excellence. And at the University of Michigan-Flint, we aggressively pursue these core values as we build community and work for justice for all people. Diversity at all levels of the university, from the office of the chancellor to our student body, enriches our learning environment and expands our institutional ability, intelligence, and creativity. Since its founding nearly 70 years ago, the University of Michigan-Flint has evolved, growing and adapting to meet the needs of its constantly changing populations of students. But we must also realize that that process is perpetual. We must recognize that we still have much work to do to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, because as we unfortunately see on an almost daily basis, racism, hatred, bigotry, and prejudice never rest. But that shouldn't deter us from actively working toward greater understanding, peace and justice on our campus, our community, and our world. At the University of Michigan-Flint, we work collectively with all university constituents to cultivate a welcoming environment for everyone while providing education and understanding that DEI work is not divisive, but rather inclusive in providing a level playing field and an environment where all can succeed and belong. Our university celebrates and honors all intersecting identities through civic engagement, comprehensive training, and diverse academic initiatives. We are dedicated to implementing policies and using best practices that explore multicultural and social competencies while placing innovation and belonging at the forefront. We strive to be agents of change that propel campus culture into an inclusive and diverse learning environment for all, while envisioning a future where all individuals feel a sense of belonging, value, respect, and empowerment, creating an institution where differences are celebrated and innovation, creativity, and excellence are expected. However, we cannot simply speak of our commitment of being a diverse community where each person feels valued. We must demonstrate that through active efforts promoting diversity, recruiting and retaining a diverse student body population, hiring faculty, administrators, and staff of diverse backgrounds, and fully embracing our roles as leaders for ourselves, our city, our region, and our state. I will work hand in hand with you and our community to realize these ideals during my time as interim chancellor at the University of Michigan-Flint. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Fry. So annually at this event, I display this slide. This slide shows our collective campus goals related to DEI, and each of us plays a role in moving toward these goals. We will be highlighting some of the activities and initiatives on campus shortly, and all are connected to one or more of these goals. The goals are not always neatly separable, are not mutually exclusive, and are not exhaustive, but they provide guideposts for our work. And as you look at these goals, you'll notice some are more specific and some are quite general. The last bullet point speaks to a broader goal of culture change. We know that culture change processes can be frustratingly nonlinear, can take time and sustained effort, but we believe it's worth it. And when we build that culture supporting inclusive excellence, diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, behaviors that run contrary to our culture are formally and informally discouraged, and we operate at our best. Everyone contributes to our culture. While we have a central office as an organizing hub for DEI efforts, advancing this work requires collective buy-in and investment. This is not unlike our collective work on recruitment, retention, and graduation. We've seen some dividends in our increase in overall enrollment this year. This is great news, and colleagues in admissions and enrollment management should be very proud of the hard work they put in. Additionally, our faculty contribute to student success and enrollment through their innovative and engaging pedagogy. Our staff and student affairs contribute to the student experience in ways that positively impact persistence. Our facility staff ensure safe, clean buildings and grounds that allow us to thrive. This takes collective effort, and DEI is very similar. So as we share initiatives that are happening and celebrate successes, these are just highlights. Many of you are involved with initiatives and programs that won't be discussed today, and we don't have time to discuss them all. So thank you. This is a good problem to have and indicates our progress toward creating the culture we're striving for. So here's some data related to our first goal of increasing the racial diversity of our students, faculty, and staff. And this data comes from the DEI annual report. It shows where we are. I typically present this information as well as census data for the city of Flint. First, of course, when we talk about increasing diversity, it isn't just race, but it does include race. And our racial representation at U of M-Flint is clearly very different from the city in which our university resides and whose name it bears. One can argue that the county or region might be a better goal. However, we don't even enroll Flint residents in proportion to their population within the region. And we began by setting an aggressive goal of more Flint students and looking more like Flint. I prefer to set aggressive goals. Part of this challenge is structural and cultural. 12.1% of Flint residents have a bachelor's degree or higher, compared to 30.1% for the state of Michigan. For much of the history of this city, a high school education was all one needed for a secure middle-class lifestyle and comfortable retirement working in auto manufacturing. That's not the case anymore. So recognizing these structural pieces informs the types of interventions we pursue, including pipeline programs and initiatives that engage with our K-12 schools in the area for students and support of our work of offices like K-12 partnerships. But this is only one of our goals. We have 8 broad goals and a number of initiatives underway campus-wide. I want to give others a chance to talk about some of the initiatives they're engaged with as we provide this update to the campus. In relationship to this goal, I'd like to invite Joe Vayner to talk about some of the work going on in admissions as it pertains to DEI. Joe?
Thank you, David, and thanks to everyone who was part of putting together this important event today. I'm going to speak briefly about 3 initiatives that have taken place over the last year, but really over the last 6 months in the Office of Admissions. And the real through line here for me is that we're trying to demystify and simplify the admission process in a time where, especially high school students, I would argue, have fewer and fewer resources in those schools to help them in the process of exploring college and applying to college and getting financial aid. And of course, whenever we're talking about students who lack resources, that's going to, more than on average fall on our underrepresented students and our first generation students. The first initiative that I want to talk about is the direct admission pathway. This is something that we piloted with 3 school districts last spring and are rolling out in full force this fall. This is a partnership with 15 local school districts, 14 in Genesee County. And to Dr. Luke's point about trying to increase our enrollment from the city of Flint, these districts include both the Flint School District, and for those who may not know, the majority of high school seniors in Flint do not attend Flint Southwestern High School. They attend other school districts through school of choice. So this would include districts that are enrolling the majority of high school seniors from the city of Flint, whether that's the Flint district or not. Through this partnership, we were essentially able to offer admission to a student before they ever submit an application to University of Michigan-Flint. And you may ask the question of why that's important. The reason it's important is that a lot of students make assumptions about both what schools they may or may not be welcome at and what schools they may or may not have the financial resources to attend long before they ever apply. And we regularly talk to transfer students who it's been their dream to attend UM-Flint from the time they entered high school and didn't apply because they assumed they couldn't get in or couldn't pay for UM-Flint. So the hope here is that by offering them admission before they submit that application, we are taking away that barrier. Now, the way we're doing this, because of course every student in the county is not admissible to UM-Flint, the partner districts are providing us with a list of admissible schools admissible students and their contact information. We are reaching back out to these students with a paper admit letter as well as an email admit letter. And then we have a ongoing communication plan to encourage these students to eventually submit an application and of course to submit their FAFSA so that we can award them financial aid. So the hope here is that we'll both get some students to think about UM-Flint who assumed they couldn't get admitted, and also frankly to get some students to think about UM-Flint who were not considering us beforehand, for other reasons. The next initiative, and if we can hit the next slide, is the Michigan Assured Admission Pact. This has a very similar goal, but the difference is this is a collaboration between 10 of Michigan's 15 public universities, and University of Michigan-Flint was really one of the leaders in making this happen. What these universities have done is come out publicly and pledge that if a Michigan high school student has a 3.0 GPA or above, all 10 of those 15 public universities will admit that student. And, as I said, it really gets at a similar issue in terms of students making assumptions about admissibility or students making an assumption about whether or not they belong here. There's also a lot of anxiety around the college admission process. A lot of us have been away from that process for decades, but it's easy to forget how much anxiety goes into submitting that application, getting that letter back, not wanting to open up that envelope because you're not sure what it's going to say. And we hope that by making this guarantee, students will feel more at ease and more secure submitting an application. We are also hoping that by doing it as a group of universities rather than as individual universities, it will be easier to get that message out to students. And in anything admissions related, the public universities are competitors. So to get us all together and agree on anything, even if it's just a majority and not all 15, was a major accomplishment. We do also have an initiative on the transfer side specific to Mott Community College. This is called the Mott to UM-Flint initiative. This is really going to work in two directions, both from Mott to UM-Flint and UM-Flint to Mott as well. From Mott to UM-Flint, Mott is going to be identifying students who are interested in coming to UM-Flint as soon as they indicate that interest. So that could be even before they take their first class at Mott. They will be connecting them with the on-site advisor that we have at Mott. We have a admissions representative who works full-time out of an office on the Mott campus. She's going to be providing academic and financial aid advising to these students to make sure that they're taking classes that will transfer over and applying on the right pipeline, on the right timeline. And, you know, our hope and our expectation is that by getting to these students earlier, we're going to help them not just get in easier, but graduate more often and more quickly, and to, you know, really reduce the chances that they're going to reach their 5th or 6th year at UM-Flint without financial aid, because we do see a lot of transfer students who are on track to graduate and run out of aid because they've taken credit that can't be used. On the other side, if we have a student who is in Genesee, Lapeer, or Shiawassee County who applies as a first-year student and is not admissible, we are going to be referring that student back to Mott Community College so that both they can work with them, but also so that our representative at Mott can continue to work with them from day one. Because right now, if a student's denied admission, we essentially tell them to go to community college and hope that they come back. By holding their hand through that process and staying in touch with them, we want them to know both that they can come here and that we want them and expect them to succeed and to be here at the end. So this is in its very early stages, but it's a level of collaboration that we haven't had with Mott for a long time. So I'm really excited about it.
Thank you, Joe. So now I'd like to turn it over to Diamond Wilder from the Office of Educational Opportunity Initiatives to talk about some of our pre-college programs, as well as our mentoring program that supports student retention. Diamond?
Thanks, David. So my name is Diamond Wilder, as David mentioned. I go by she, her, hers. I am the program manager for pre-college programs, in addition to the staff support for the Success Peer Mentorship. I am a Black woman with dark hair, wearing glasses, and a black and beige striped sweater, and I am excited to be here today. So when we look at the pre-college experience on campus, we are focusing on our Michigan Gaining Early Awareness and Readiness for undergraduate programs, also known as Michigan Gear Up, in partnership with Martin Luther King Jr., Cesar Chavez, and Rosa Parks College Day program, which is also known as the KCP College Day Initiative. So both of these programs are emerged at Center's College Access Initiatives, providing students and families the support and resources that they need for college success. The KCP College Day was originally created by the Michigan State Legislature in 1998 and merged with the federally funded Gear Up program in 2006. So as I mentioned, we are federally funded through the U.S. Department of Education, in addition to being state funded through the King Chavez Parks Initiative with support from the University of Michigan-Flint. Michigan Gear Up prepares students for post-secondary success by offering a variety of services throughout students' educational careers, and comes with progression in the program from 7th grade through their first year of college. It is within all 15 Michigan public universities that works statewide with economically and academically disadvantaged students in 51 of Michigan school districts and 90 school buildings. Each location must have the student population of at least 50% qualifying for free or reduced lunch. So some key takeaways here is that our Michigan Gear Up program is specifically equipped to provide services for academically disadvantaged and economically disadvantaged students and their families, while providing partnership opportunities for educators and counselors. In addition to our Gear Up program working with high schools throughout the state to offer students the exposure and experiences to build upon their academic skills, information, and encouragement that they not only need to graduate from high school, but also apply, attend, and gain skills necessary to earn a college or university degree. So as we look at access, impact, and achievement, the Gear Up program here on campus was initiated with recruitment of Beecher High School students, and we have recently expanded to include Hamady High School with hopes of adding additional eligible schools in the near future. Through the academic year and summer, our program provides workshops and enrichment opportunities for students and parents. Gear Up is currently in year 4 of our grant, and we follow our priority cohort established in 2020 until their first year of college in 2026. Eligibility for scholarships we provide by the federal through our federal grant funds, which were established for that purpose. Activities also include academic development, in-school workshops, summer programs, school outreach, campus visits, and family support. And that concludes our pre-college experience. So as I transition over here to the Success Peer Mentorship Program, which is our campus-wide peer mentoring program here at U of M-Flint, I'm going to talk a little bit more about our recently new campus initiative here. And so over the past 2 years, S&P has catered to ensuring that first year and college students, new transfer, and recently our new graduates have the opportunity to feel empowered and have a sense of community and belonging, all while navigating the University of Michigan-Flint's campus. So looking at our 2022-2023 second year data here on the slide, and we have a lot of things happening that we're really excited about, and to see how this program has positively impacted sense of belonging for our students. We engaged roughly over 600 students in the past year, with 361 students being undergraduate mentees, 107 students being undergraduate mentors, 84 graduate mentees, and 40 grad mentors. We also saw an overrepresentation of historically marginalized groups in those populations, that there were also lots of engagement from first-gen students as well. We saw a positive difference in continuation for students that participated in the program versus students that did not. When looking at fall 22 to winter 23, we saw a 93% for our Success Peer Mentorship FIDIAC students, 85% for our S&P new transfer students, and a 97% for our new grad students. We had roughly over 30% highly engaged mentorship pairs for both grad and undergraduate programs, meaning that they logged at least 3+ conversations. And we also saw a difference of about 4% increase in students' in sense of belonging. A challenge that we did identify is that we saw a small decrease in self-efficacy. So that is something that we are looking to work on in the future as this program grows. Since our expansion, we have a broader set of students with access to this program between undergrad and graduate students. So as we get into some of the engagement data to see what we have for this year, our 2023-24 year, we are excited to see that numbers have continued to grow in such a short amount of time. And we look forward to more students engaging in this program throughout the year. In our first year experience program, we started a bit earlier this year to help address summer melt. And so we already have 73 mentors matched with 201 mentees, and that puts us almost at our threshold of 255 mentorships. Looking at 2,030 peer-to-peer conversations with 593 logged conversations. We have about 34% of pairs have had at least 3 conversations. So we're on par to reach our program benchmark of about 41% by the end of the fall semester. We also see 63% of pairs have logged at least conversations in 30 days. So we do have active engagement monthly between our mentorship pairs. So a key takeaway here is that roughly 20% of our students that we've either invited have already either registered and or been paired with a mentor. And for our grad program that we recently started a few weeks ago for the academic year, we have about 9 mentors match, 18 mentees match, 40 peer-to-peer texts, and 20 log conversation. This also puts us at 94% of pairs being logged conversations in the last 30 days, so high engagement there amongst our graduate population. And roughly 35% of students invited have either registered and or been paired with a mentor. So we wanted to be able to dig a little bit deeper around some of the identities of those that our students hold. When we look at that for our first year experience peer program, for those new transfer and first time in college students, there's a couple key highlights and a couple pie charts here on the screen if you like a visual. but roughly 7% of our mentees are from underrepresented populations that we would classify for on campus. We continue to see a high number of first generation, and 45% of our mentors are both first gen and underrepresented minority, in addition to 28% of our mentees bringing both of those identities as well. And for our mentors, that's about half of our mentor population. So we have a lot of intersectional identities that then matter on how students feel seen and how they're paired up as a part of the process and our near peer pairing that we use for our program. So in the next piece here, we wanted to give another aspect of identity as we talk about DEI work, as we look at gender identities of our mentees and our mentors. We have a couple pieces to highlight, and we have an option for students to be able to share their identity in a way that fits them. That is either male, female, or non-binary, or they can add language to identify what that is. And if they choose not to, they can also classify it as other. So when looking at gender for our mentors, we have about 14% identified as female, 5% identified as male, 0.2% identified as non-binary, 0.06% identified as genderqueer, 0.06% identified as gender fluid. Our mentees here, 11% identified as female, 4% identified as male, and 0.3% identified as non-binary. So that is another aspect that we would like to continue to see impact on how our students, so that they can find other students to connect with across those identities. We see similar numbers for our graduate program as well. And so as our graduate program mentorship and engagement grows this year, we will continue to see the difference in those demographics, and that we can share that out at a later date. So an important aspect here is to keep in mind that this data is also self-reported. So we're excited about being able to engage with the students and find ways to be able to build on these opportunities to be able to think about how these identities impact their sense of belonging. So we'll continue to assess and hopefully see those positive results. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Diamond. Next, I want to pass things off to John Girdwood, who's also in the Office of Educational Opportunity Initiatives, to talk about the expansion of our King Chavez Parks programs.
Thanks, David. This is a great time for U of M-Flint educational opportunities because U of M-Flint now manages all 7 King Chavez Parks, or KCP, grants offered by the state of Michigan. These programs, as Diamond Wilder said, are all named to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Cesar Chavez, and Rosa Parks. And we're emphasizing the importance of all the programs working together to achieve the goals of offering Michigan's academically and economically disadvantaged students in our region the opportunity to complete their college degrees and experience career success as active participants in a knowledge-based global economy. The program called Gear Up, mentioned in a prior slide, is in place to prepare students for college. The Select Student Support Services Program, or 4S, formerly known as Promise Scholars, supports students at U of M-Flint who are adjusting to the college experience. The newly added Morris Hood Jr. Educator Development Program and the Michigan College University Partnership, or MyCUP program, provides similar support for future teachers and students with experience in community colleges, respectively. Although these programs are framed to serve, quote, non-traditional students, unquote, at other universities, you may be surprised to know that this collection of programs is here to serve the majority of our students here at U of M-Flint. We are excited to continue several of these programs, bring back one, and implement one for the first time at U of M-Flint. 3 undergraduate support programs began 6-year grant cycles this past week on October 1st, 2023, to provide U of M-Flint with an additional $1.2 million over this time to support our scholars. Thanks to everyone, faculty, staff, and everyone else at U of M-Flint for supporting our KCP scholars throughout this entire institution.
Thank you, John. Next, I'd like to turn it over to DEI co-chair Roy Barnes to talk about some curricular work going on surrounding a DEI certificate.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Roy Barnes. I go by the pronouns he and him. I have now mostly gray hair, black rimmed glasses, and I have a purple shirt with a white background. As the faculty co-chair for the DEI Advisory Committee, I've been fortunate enough to work with a group of faculty from across many of our academic units. There's representation from the College of Arts and Sciences, the School of Management, School of Nursing, and the College of Health Sciences. So we have faculty from almost every academic unit on campus. We began our work last winter and are continuing our work to finalize the curriculum. I can report at this time, though, that the basic parameters of the curriculum has 3 parts. And as we go from the first to the last part, the content and the approach becomes more and more discipline specific. But we start off with a foundations or framework course, and this is going to be common across all participants, and that will basically have one course for everybody. Then students will go into inquiry or exploration courses, and these can be either 3 or 6 credits. We're still working on those sorts of details, but it gets a little bit more refined and a little bit more focused on discipline-specific issues. And then finally, the last part, with an emphasis on practice and application, is going to be very discipline-specific. And this is where students will have an opportunity to really dig in and apply their DEI understandings to their own disciplines. So that's where we are now. We are still hoping for a final approval across the academic units within this academic year. And hopefully at this time next year, it will be in the officially in the university catalog.
Great, thank you, Roy. Next, I wanted to give some time to Beth Manning to talk a bit about what's been happening in human resources at U of M-Flint.
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. As David said, my name is Beth Manning. I'm the Director of Human Resources. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a Caucasian cisgender woman with blonde hair. I'm wearing glasses, a maize shirt, and a blue blazer. Thank you for joining us today. I'm honored to share our HR objectives, reflecting our commitment to enhancing diversity, equity, and inclusion across all facets of our campus. Our dedicated HR recruiter has been proactively engaging with an array of diverse community groups, fostering meaningful connections. To name a few, we've partnered with Flint and Genesee Group, Michigan Works, Mott Community College Workforce, Community and Grant Development, the Disability Network, Flint Genesee Job Corps, AARP, State of Michigan Veterans Employment Services, State of Michigan Vocational Rehab, Strive, and many others. We believe in the power of progressive outreach as a cornerstone for achieving our DEI goals. Active involvement in these and other diverse community groups is at the heart of our mission. It's not just about participation, it's about building lasting relationships within these vibrant and important communities. We're not just working with communities, we're becoming integral members of them. To broaden our horizons and tap into a more extensive talent pool, we have harnessed the capabilities of LinkedIn and Indeed recruiter licenses. These platforms have opened doors to a more diverse range of potential candidates. In embracing these platforms, we're catalyzing positive change. Our campus commitment to DEI is evident right from the start, with DEI statements seamlessly integrated into every staff and faculty regular job posting. This ensures that our principles of diversity and inclusion resonate from the very beginning of the hiring process. In an era of data, we've adopted a data-driven approach to recruitment, thanks to our continued rollout and use of data people. This empowers us to make informed decisions and ensures fairness. In our performance evaluations, we've evaluated DE&I awareness, emphasizing the significance of contributions to DE&I within our organization. We believe that recognizing these efforts are pivotal. We believe strongly that DE&I is not just a checkbox, it's an integral part of what we do. To nurture retention and engagement, we've implemented stay interviews, fostering open dialogues to bolster engagement. Meanwhile, our continued exit interviews are helping us eliminate barriers to inclusion, equity, and retention. Efficiency, equity, and inclusion are all the core of our operations. Therefore, we're continuously working to streamline our posting to hire processes, creating a more welcoming and efficient experience for all of our candidates. We're trying to make every step of the hiring journey count. In spring 2023, we launched best hiring practices consultations, and in fall 2023, we've initiated professional development opportunities. We've hoped that you have been able to utilize some of the sessions already, but if not, please watch your emails for continued information on these. We feel these are great steps toward a brighter and more inclusive future. We're investing in the growth and development of our campus team, and it's paying dividends in our commitment to DE&I. Our dedication to creating a diverse, equitable, and inclusive workforce is steadfast. Together, we're on a journey towards a more enlightened and inclusive future. Thank you for all your unwavering commitment to the cause of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Your dedication and partnership with us is the driving force behind continuing progress. Go Blue.
Thank you, Beth. So in addition to all these things Beth's talked about, I want to talk a little bit next about the Inclusion Advocates Program. So as I mentioned last year, I partnered with Professor Terrence Horgan, the Myron and Margaret Weingarten Professor of Psychology at the University of Michigan-Flint for this initiative. As many of you know, he's an expert in the social psychology of nonverbal communication and implicit bias. So upon speaking with colleagues at other institutions and within U of M-Flint and talking with Professor Horgan, we decided to work to bring an Inclusion Advocates program to this campus. Under this program, our search committees will be structured to include a person specifically trained to mitigate bias in the search process. We're currently developing a training program for the advocates, which fits naturally with other work Professor Horgan is doing to create a training manual to be used by students, educators, and universities and companies throughout the U.S., educating readers about how implicit biases, confirmatory hypothesis testing, non-conscious behavioral confirmation, and stereotype threat can negatively impact the hiring and tenure and promotion processes at colleges and universities. Our DEI advisory committee members will, as part of their service, agree to serve as inclusion advocates for our campus. And our human resource department will, in verifying search committee composition, ensure that an inclusion advocate is represented on each committee. Additionally, this project will serve as my project for my National Association of Diversity Officers in Higher Education Chief Diversity Officer Fellowship Program, and I will present about it at the annual conference in the spring. In this way, I will get additional feedback and guidance from my assigned mentor and from a network of colleagues at institutions across the country who are engaged in these efforts on their respective campuses. This form of peer review will be invaluable as we strive to make a more effective and equitable hiring process. So next, I want to invite Samara Howe and Hillary Murmurs from the Center for Gender and Sexuality to talk about gender-inclusive restrooms.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, David. My name is Samara Howe. My pronouns are she and her. I'm an African-American woman wearing brown and white glasses, a blue blouse, and a gray sweater. And I'm honored on behalf of the Center for Gender and Sexuality to talk a little bit with you about a wonderful project we were able to fulfill this year, our gender inclusive restrooms. One of the things I noticed early on as I began working here at U of M-Flint is the lack of gender inclusive restrooms just right outside of our doors. And it wasn't until the courageous efforts of our students who are now alumni and also students that are active now advocated fiercely to have our campus expand our restrooms to include gender inclusive restrooms throughout our campus. And although there's still work to be done, I wanted to highlight some of those efforts on today and to really frame out that this is really an initiative that is expansion for all identities to be able to use, and no matter what sex, gender, or gender identity that you may hold. In particular, we also know that our transgender and gender nonconforming folks have more of a challenge in terms of being able to access restrooms that really feel safe and comfortable for them. And so having a gender inclusive restroom not only helps to support the transgender and gender nonconforming folks, but also folks who have children and also folks who may identify with disabilities and may desire a safer space for themselves to use the restroom. So this is not taking away from anything, but also really expanding us as a campus. And I would also say as a community, you know, if you were to look downtown Flint to find out where all the gender inclusive restrooms are, you'd find that there's not a whole lot of spaces that are available that are gender inclusive or all gender. And so this is a celebration not only for our campus, but for our community. I would also just like to say though, that we're still haven't reached our goal yet. Of all of our restrooms, we have 105, but only 18 are identified as gender inclusive. If you'd like to learn more about where these facilities are located, you can go to our website at CGS. Also visit the intranet on the HR page. And if you're really interested in learning more about where gender inclusive restrooms are in your community, you can go to refugerestrooms.org to find out more. I'd like to just change things a little bit and shift and invite my colleague Hillary Murmurs to talk about what's been done and also where we still have yet to go. Hillary.
Thank you so much, Sam. So we were really happy that this year we were able to accomplish having consistent signage across all gender inclusive restrooms on campus. So that sign actually that's in the previous slide is the sign that you will see all across U of M-Flint's campus on all gender inclusive restrooms. And that was an initiative spearheaded between DEI, CGS, and facilities and operations. We also have new single stall lockable gender inclusive restrooms in the North Bank, as well as our first on our campus multi-user gender inclusive restrooms in the University Center. And those are the restrooms right outside of CGS on the second floor. So our overall goal in terms of the gender inclusive restrooms is to have at least one gender inclusive restroom accessible to the whole campus community in every building on campus. So currently the buildings that we are targeting to help reach that goal are William White, the Francis Wilson Thompson Library, and the University of Pavilion. And we're working very hard with our colleagues in facilities and operations and with the support of Interim Chancellor Fry to correct this and make gender inclusive restrooms available throughout campus.
Great, thank you, Samara and Hillary. So now I want to invite Laura Martin to talk a little bit about programming support for U of M-Flint through the Programming for Inclusive Excellence, or PI program. Laura?
Thanks, David. My name is Laura Martin. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a cisgender white woman with brown hair, and I'm wearing a blue U of M jacket. I'm a program manager in the Office of K-12 Partnerships, and Melissa Sirkovic, Associate Professor of Education, and I have been hosting inclusive events on campus with the support of DEI Programming for Inclusive Excellence, PI funding, since 2019. We are extremely thankful to the Office of DEI and their PI funding, as these events could not happen without their support. In 2009, PI funds were able to help us launch Inclusive Halloween each October, and in 2002, we also started hosting Officer Friendly Day in the spring. These events are extremely important to our Flint community, as many families of special needs children and adults do not feel comfortable attending more traditional events, given that their family members may act differently than what is expected. We have IRB approval for both events and do post-event surveys of attendees and volunteers to gauge the success of the events on improving inclusion in the Flint community. Next slide, please. These are some photos from last year's Inclusive Halloween. Our first Inclusive Halloween occurred in 2019 in response to a negative experience I had while attending a community Halloween event with my autistic nonverbal son, Luke. He couldn't say trick or treat, and the person whose table we were at refused to give him anything unless he said the magic words trick or treat. The experience led me to reach out to Melissa and senior administration at U of M-Flint, and Inclusive Halloween at U of M-Flint was born. Inclusive Halloween accommodates those who are disabled by having candy and non-edible treats at the trick-or-treat tables for those who might have a feeding tube or severe allergies or just don't want candy. We separate the spooky and scary trick-or-treat rooms because we got response from attendees that they can't take their kids anywhere in October because there's Halloween decorations everywhere and they are scared of them. We have an incontinence care room for older children or adults who cannot use regular maybe changing stations or need more room to be changed. And we also have a calming sensory room for anyone who might get overstimulated at a big event and just needs a quiet, darkish space to relax. In our first year, we had around 350 volunteers and attendees participate. In 2022, when we returned from COVID and could host again, it grew to over 500 volunteers and attendees. And right now I'm getting ready for Inclusive Halloween 2023 on Friday, October 27th. And currently we have over 200 volunteers, students, faculty, staff, and community members, and over 400 attendees registered. So we are on track for a much larger event this year. And I just want to take a moment to thank the departments on campus who have championed this event and have donated time, funds, and who have included the event as part of their academic courses even, as a way to teach their students at U of M-Flint about inclusion. We receive amazing feedback from our students and community volunteers on how much they learn from interacting with the disabled community, and parents literally emailed me throughout the year saying they cannot wait for the next event because they have tears in their eyes seeing like how wonderful it is for their children who are usually excluded to finally be included and accommodated in such a major way. So our other event we host is Officer Friendly Day. We've done that twice so far. And this event focuses on bringing law enforcement officers and the autistic community together for a day of mutual understanding and fun. The police officers learn how to interact with people that may have autistic tendencies, and people who identify as on the spectrum get to experience what it's like to interact with a police officer, which could be very intimidating. Our attendees came and heard stories told by law enforcement officers. They practiced what to do in a mock pullover situation if they are old enough to drive. And they had a lot of fun practicing safety rules on a miniature town that the U of M-Flint Makers and Creators Club made for us. It's in the corner. It was amazing. It had lights and it was great. We were so thankful for that. So those are two big events that we run every year with the help of PI funding. And I just want to say thank you DEI for letting us do this. Thank you for offering us PI funding. Please do not get rid of PI funding because it really makes a huge difference for our events and for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. And now I want to invite Q Dockery from the Intercultural Center to talk a bit about DEI programming support for student organizations through the Diversity Organizations Collaborative. Q?
Thank you. So hi, I'm Q. I use she, her pronouns. I am a Black woman. I have Black hair. I'm currently wearing a Black scarf with a light blue jean jacket. So just a little bit about Diversity Orgs Programming Collaborative, or DOC as we call it. So DOC provides an opportunity for student organizations and leaders that are fundamentally committed to diversity, so in their mission, vision, and values. And it's a chance to connect, brainstorm, and collaborate. And so a lot of times we just wanted to provide them with an additional way to not only collaborate, but make sure they're not programming over each other, making sure maybe if like they're noticing certain things on campus, like they have a space and an opportunity to both connect, and then maybe programming could come out of that. And so we meet once a month, every second Tuesday of the month, and we usually just ask that one representative from the org is present. And so for processes, if they have an idea, they'll submit a proposal to the group, and then the group will vote on it. And we try to encourage collaborations. The more orgs that are a part of it, the more funding you can receive. Just for context. And then so some orgs that you might be familiar with that are part of DOC are Luna, Black Student Union, Muslim Student Association, Indian Student Association, ISO, or International Student Organization. So those are just a few. So like I said, it's administrated through the Intercultural Center, and as well as just some different programs around campus that you might have seen that come out of it. So Diwali, we know how huge that is on campus. So a lot of times for food and stuff, they'll use some funding for DOC Carnival came out of DOC funding, Dia de los Muertos. And recently, it was a week or two ago, if you noticed the Luna's block party that they recently had out in McKinnon Plaza, they accessed DOC funds with the 3 other organizations that decided to collab with them. And so just a lot of cool big campus programming coming out of DOC. A lot of times it's attended by faculty, staff, students, as well as community members. And one cool thing that the students have really been intentional about that we really appreciate seeing throughout their programming is really thinking about how they could partner with local Flint businesses. So a lot of times you'll see this, especially around like food. So they want culturally specific foods at the events. So they'll find those vendors within the Flint community and ask them to cater. But as well as there's a dance group around Flint too. So a lot of times they were at Dia de los Muertos, there's that carnival, and recently the Luna party, I cannot think of their name, I'm sorry. But just like really thinking of ways to not only like educate and provide like great programming for the campus community, but how do we like really build rapport within the community itself and support community business within Flint. So thank you.
Thank you, Q. So next, I would like to invite Anthony Webster Jr. to talk about our campus climate concern reporting protocol. Anthony?
Thank you, David. Good afternoon, everyone. U of M Flint's campus climate concern reporting was launched in the fall of 2022, and it's focused on addressing concerns that may create harm to members of the university community based on their social identities. Our campus climate concern form was modeled after the campus climate support process in Ann Arbor. And so with our reporting form, all reports are submitted to our campus climate support team. And that team is made up of representatives across our campus, as well as a representative from the Office of the Vice President and General Counsel in Ann Arbor. Our campus climate support team is not a disciplinary body, but a team focused on providing support in the appropriate referral. Any reports can be submitted by contacting the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion directly by utilizing the online reporting form, which can be found on ODEI's website, or by speaking with any member of the campus climate support team in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. So I'd like to highlight a few other initiatives that are ongoing. If at any point you have any questions about any of these initiatives or would like to get involved further in them, please feel free to contact me. So first, last year, we implemented a website translation widget, recognizing that barrier for families with non-English speakers who lacked access to information that they could understand about U of M Flint. Now, in its first full year of operation, we saw over 33,000 webpage views in languages other than English, including Spanish, Arabic, Chinese, Korean, and Portuguese. This was a low-cost intervention that has increased our accessibility of our website dramatically. Next, in an effort to provide mechanisms for feedback and continue to hear from our university community, I've decided in consultation with the DEI Advisory Committee to replace focus groups that I was doing weekly last year with DEI open office hours. I will communicate the days and times in an email later this month, but we'll have time reserved for drop-in visits in person or virtually. There are a number of toolkits that have been developed to support our better understanding and support for our students in our community. The Trauma-Informed Toolkit, Inclusive Teaching Support Toolkit, and Gender and Sexuality Toolkit are all available to our university community, and I encourage those who haven't yet to check out these valuable resources. Our resources expand beyond the university to working with local organizations. Staff from the DEI office and the Center for Gender and Sexuality are working with local organizations like the Mott Children's Health Center, Food Bank of Eastern Michigan, and Ruth Mott Foundation to offer professional development related to unconscious bias, systemic oppression, and building competencies around gender and sexuality. And this is a collaboration with our colleagues in the Office of Business Engagement. In addition to the DEI certificate mentioned previously, conversations continue with colleagues in academic affairs as we look at how our DEI commitment is incorporated in and reflected in our curriculum. For co-curricular development, the Social Justice Leadership Series, brought by the Division of Student Affairs, but in conjunction with faculty and community partners, offers students, faculty, and staff an opportunity to learn and grow in our competencies around social justice with a curriculum that builds throughout the year and is grounded in the social change model of leadership development. Students can also take part in certificate programs in topics like healthy masculinity, sexual violence prevention, inclusive leadership, and others through the Center for Gender and Sexuality, Student Involvement in Leadership, and the Intercultural Center. These opportunities are important in supporting our students' growth related to DEI. Our Campus Cultural Events Committee, formerly the MLK Day Planning Committee, supports a more coordinated effort of our campus-wide programming. While we have a core team, those interested in participating in this group can contact me to join in support of these major campus programs. And finally, we are actively pursuing external funding in conjunction with colleagues in the Office of Research and the Urban Institute for Racial, Economic, and Environmental Justice. While there isn't much additional to report aside from the grants previously mentioned in this summit, the increases in applications and activity will yield more resources and enhance our capacity to advance this important work. More good news is coming. Obviously, in our brief time together, we couldn't talk about everything that's happening on our campus, but wanted to provide these updates and highlight some of the important work that's going on. I'm now going to invite Roy Barnes, DEI Advisory Committee Co-Chair, to close out the summit. Roy.
Thank you, David. As you can tell, there's a lot going on campus to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you want to learn more, if you want to get involved, please contact David Luke. You can also, your comments are always welcome, feedback either in person or electronically. You can stop by the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, 217 University Center, to speak with members there. You can also send an email to Flint ODEI, Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion at umich.edu. Thank you very much for your participation and attention to our summit. This has been an exciting overview of all the activities. And as David said, there's a lot going on, a lot more going on that we could cover in the limited time that we have. But we look forward to a year ahead and to talk with you next year. Thank you very much.